Okay, all right. So Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the
Hey, Rabbi.
bridge code of Jewish law, chapter 104. So yesterday we did we discussed Tu B'Shvat, and although there were a few things that probably would have gone over, but since we sent the sheet to everyone, but I think we got the idea. So we'll continue in the Shulchan Aruch today, chapter 104, and we're up to number 10, to Yud. So we're in the middle of discussing the laws of Chol HaMoed. Just to refresh our memories, because we had a bit of a winter break. We discussed, of course, that on Shabbos there's we can't do any malacha at all. Malacha meaning the creative activities that we used to build the Mishkan, the tabernacle, in the wilderness. So we can't. That's the definition of the work we can't do on Shabbos. On Yom Tov, some of them become permitted. The ones that are needed for food. Okay. Then on Chol HaMoed, the intermediate days more become permitted. So we said the first. So far we've learned 3 categories of what's permitted. One is if it's for the food or something of the Yom Tov or Chol HaMoed. So again, I'm emphasizing this is the Chol HaMoed, this intermediate days, not the actual Chag, the actual Yom Tov days on the 2 ends. So if you need to, you can get in the car on Chol HaMoed, go to the store, buy whatever you need, various things. The next category was if you're going to have a loss, right? So we gave us sort of black and white example of, let's say someone, God forbid, a pipe burst or broke open in the basement, and if they're not going to fix it, which will involve malacha, it's going to flood the basement, and they're going to have a loss. They're going to lose things. The third category that we mentioned so far is if there's a Jew who doesn't have money for food for Yom Tov, right? He doesn't have enough to keep going for the festival, the intermediate days for the Yom Tov. You're allowed to employ him, even though it involves malacha, in order that he can have food for Yom Tov. So obviously this doesn't apply on Yom Tov itself. It doesn't apply on Shabbos, but Chol HaMoed, it's a leniency of Chol HaMoed. So let's say, for an example, we gave the example of having someone come and paint your warehouse, right? So painting is a malacha, and it could just as easily for you wait until after Yom Tov, but this person you're employing to paint, they don't have food to eat for Yom Tov, so you can employ them Chol HaMoed to come and then to come paint, and then you pay them, and they have money for Yom Tov. So chapter 104, Yud number 10. So we're gonna have a situation. Person, he has a vegetable garden. A garden here means a vegetable garden, and it's next to the vegetable garden of a non-Jew. And what happens? The Jew is harvesting his vegetable garden. Now, from your perspective, you can wait until after the intermediate days. Let's say it's the middle of Chol HaMoed, so till after Yom Tov, 3, 4, maybe 5 days. No problems. Your vegetables are going to be good. The problem is like this. B'im Yisrael lo yilkoit. If the Jew does not come and harvest his fruit, his produce, Yavale de hefsid, he's going to come to a loss. Now that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because the non-Jew might be a little bit generous on what they're harvesting, maybe a little over the fence and different things. It could be they're going to stand on the adjacent garden to harvest their things and squash, whatever it happens to be, right? So, but if what's going to happen is a person going to have a loss, and this is one of the leniencies of Chol HaMoed we learned, is that if a person is going to have a loss, the mutaloi l'laktam, he can come now and he can pick his vegetables, he can he can gather up his produce in his vegetable garden. Now, that's one possibility. Another possibility. There's something that they're going to spoil unless they get picked. They've now ripened. You didn't expect them to ripen so soon. If you had, you would have picked them before Yom Tov. But they, we had a nice, warm and wet spell. They're all ripe and ready to go. And if you're going to leave it for another however long, they're going to get ruined, right? Or we're expecting a frost that's going to ruin everything. Or the birds are coming, whatever happens to be. So imlo yaseh sarkam gamloch acheres, if there's something that if you pick it, you can't eat it at that point. There's something they still need something else done to them, right? So we're going to give an example. The example we're going to give is grapes. You can eat grapes, but the grapes are wine. So even though you're going to pick them, they're still not ready. They didn't become wine yet. So if you're in a situation like that, you can do everything necessary. You can even press the wine. So let's say, for example, you picked it, it's going to get ruined, and if you don't start pressing the grapes and get the juice out to make the wine, they're going to spoil. They're going to sit a week, wherever it is, they're going to spoil. Then you can do everything. The only condition, the only thing that has that holds you back is if you deliberately waited until Chol Hamoed to do this. Right? There could be someone who may be tempted to say, look, I'm really busy because I run my business the rest of the year. Chol Hamoed, the office is closed, so I'm going to wait till Chol Hamoed and do all these things. Well, then you can't, even if it's going to get ruined, right? But if you did not deliberately leave Chol Hamoed, it just ended up, you picked it, you thought it would keep until afterwards. Now it's gonna, you see, it's warmer than you thought. It's gonna go rotten, or you see now the birds are coming and eating at everything and ruining whatever happened. The weather forecast, there's gonna be a frost and everything's gonna get ruined. So you didn't deliberately leave Chol Hamoed. It just ended up, you got into the circumstance during Chol Hamoed, then you're allowed to harvest whatever you have. Okay. Yud Aleph, number 11. You're not allowed to have a haircut on Chol Hamoed. Now, that means any those who shave different things or different things. So can't do the Chol Hamoed. Now, just to give a bit of background, technically, from a Torah perspective, let's say there was a person who he on Chol Hamoed, he's a little bit, his hair's a bit messy, and from a Torah perspective, we're going to see there's a rabbinical prohibition against it. From a technical perspective, and for the last day's Yom Tov, he could have a haircut, tied himself up. He would be allowed to do that in order to go into the last day's Yom Tov or the Shabbos Chol Hamoed looking neat. The sages made a decree against this. Why? Because what happened is that, again, people were very busy before Yom Tov, and they're trying to finish things up before they close up their business. And so they stopped getting haircuts or trims or whatever they needed to do before Yom Tov. And they left it until Chol Hamoed. So they came into Yom Tov looking disheveled, not showing the proper respect to Yom Tov. So the sages came and said, you can't have a haircut Chol Hamoed. And this forces everyone to make sure they get the haircut before Yom Tov, like they're meant to. And then once you have it before Yom Tov, you can go a week without it's not the end of the world. Very few people, the hair grows that quickly. Mine does sometimes, have to trim each week, but quite, not for a long time. But anyway, we'll leave that aside. I get my 2 or 3 haircuts a year. But that's the rabbinic decree. So a person is not allowed to get a haircut on Chol Hamoed, even if he had a haircut on the day before Yom Tov. Right? So this guy did the right thing. He got a haircut the day before Yom Tov. And whatever happened, I don't know, he thought he was using shampoo. Instead, he used the stuff to make the grass grow. And all of a sudden, his hairs, Ben.
Yeah, I wanted to say legaleach is to shave.
Means to shave, but it means a haircut, because that's how they used to give haircuts. They used to take a razor blade and shave your head.
Oh, they shave your head?
Yeah. So you're right. Galeach literally means to shave for the blade, but it means any hair cutting, which would include shaving, also shave, but it means the hair, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the term borrowed from the Talmud, because again, in the Talmud, that's how they got a haircut. They, the same thing with Yosef when he came out of the, he was in the pit. He was in the prison in Egypt. Came to meet Pharaoh, so came the glass. They gave him a haircut. But that's what they used to cut hair. So someone who got a haircut on, even though he did the right thing, he got an Erev Yom Tov, even he can't have it during Chol Hamoed, because we're worried that people won't know that he got a haircut on Erev Yom Tov. They'll just start to think, they'll see the guy sitting in the barber shop. Oh, there's a religious man. Or she's a religious lady. They got a haircut Chol Hamoed, so you must be allowed to. So we don't let those people either. Exception is Ela Mishiyatza Meisasurim, someone who came out of prison. Got out of prison. Got out of prison, and today's prisons probably have some of the prisons have whole salons in there, pampering you, and you get a pedicure while you're having your haircut. But in those days, prison was you're in a pit. So the person comes out totally disheveled. So the person comes out, he's allowed to have a haircut, even during Chol Hamoed. And there's other exceptions also. Let's say it was a person who was in mourning for a relative. So let's say his parents can't have a haircut for 30 days, and that finished Chol Hamoed, and he didn't realize the person was going to pass away, so he might have been due for a haircut beforehand. Or someone who came from overseas. So again, today coming from overseas means you got on a plane, and even a long flight is 14, 15 hours, something like that. But in those days, going overseas meant you spent 2 months on a ship, and traveling in caravans and through the desert and things like that. So so people who came from exceptional circumstances, they could get a haircut. Now this person who came out of prison, or someone else is allowed, but Philo Yotzev Erev Yom Tov, this is even came out in Erev Yom Tov. But he didn't have time to have a haircut, because even though they let him out 5 hours before Yom Tov from prison, but you know what? He first thing he needed was a bath. And he actually needed to get somewhere to stay, and he needed to organize some food. So even though technically he had time to have a haircut, the fact that he put other priorities first, we allow him to still have the haircut Chol Hamoed. So that's haircuts. So we need to try and get a haircut before Yom Tov. Right. Yud Beis, number 12. So cutting our fingernails. So Gam came also. We shouldn't cut our nails, or toenails also, shouldn't just say fingernails. Toenails or fingernails, shouldn't cut them. We should not meant to cut them on Chol Hamoed. However, im katzam Erev Yom Tov, if you did cut them on Chol Hamoed, on Erev Yom Tov, you cut them on Erev Yom Tov like you meant to come into Yom Tov looking neat. You're allowed to cut them also on Chol Hamoed. You know, sometimes a person they cut the nails like they're meant to, and either they didn't realize, or they grew better, or the new shoes didn't fit, and now they're getting whatever it is, they're getting a bit of an ingrown toenail. Say for an example, or if they got fast-growing nails and all the matzah, you know, looks very messy, even though that they cut their nails before Yom Tov, and so as long as they cut on Erev Yom Tov, then they can cut on Chol Hamoed. Likewise, a lady that's going to go to the mikveh, that her time to go to a married lady, time to go to the mikveh is during Chol Hamoed. She can cut her nails, and she can also trim her hair if she needs to as well, and different things. You go to the mikveh. Okay. Yud Gimel.
Rabbi, can I ask you a quick question, please?
Yes.
From one Shabbos to the next Shabbos, is there any days that are considered intermediate?
No. It's just the intermediate days between. So Pesach, 8 days we have the Yom Tov on the two ends,
right?
And the middle days intermediate, and same with Sukkot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry I didn't
no,
it properly.
It's my ignorance that it. Thank you.
No problems. So the next one, 13, we're going to talk about laundry. Now we have more leniencies today, because laundry in those days means you went down to the river, and there's a lot of work washing clothes in the river. Today, doing the laundry means you put something in the washing machine and throw in some detergent. Now, I'm not saying it's no work, but it's certainly far less work. So nowadays, there are going to be some leniencies. So first, we'll see what the basic law is, and then we'll talk through some of the potential leniencies that we have today. So 13, number Yud Gimel. Also the Chavis v'shum davar. You can't do any laundry on Chol Hamoed. Afilu tzarich hamoed, even if it's clothes you need for Yom Tov. Right, so you wanted to wash the shirt for the second day Yom Tov. You got, you used it at the Seder, and you're drinking those 4 cups, and you got a purple spotted shirt, and you want to have a clean shirt, so you can't. The only exception is if someone were in circumstances they could not do laundry at all before Yom Tov. The city was under a siege. It doesn't have to be so extreme, but it was something really beyond normal circumstances. So that's the only leniency for those days. Similarly, loosely called them diapers, right? Remember the cloth, right? Those of us remember, before diapers were disposable. And so those ones, since the children soil them regularly, and you need a lot of them, you're allowed to launder them. They should try and wash them in private, so people don't see that you're doing laundry. Okay, so that's the basic law. So today, before we even get to today's leniencies, I'm going to throw in some other leniencies. We've already learned that you're allowed to do malacha to avoid a loss. So sometimes certain garments, if they have certain stains on them, if you're going to leave it a week, it's not going to come out. Certain things don't come out properly, and you've ruined the item. So the same way you're allowed to do other malacha on Chol Hamoed to stop a loss, you can do this also. Sometimes towels and different things, if you leave them wet, they got very wet, and you leave them sitting wet for a week, they're going to get moldy and whatever, they're going to get ruined. So you're allowed to watch them also before we get into any modern day leniencies, just on the basic law of not, you're allowed to do malacha on Chol Hamoed in order not to have financial loss. Okay, but today, many poskim are lenient, as I said, because remember, laundry in those days, when I was a kid, we had we lived in a house for about 6 months. We were building a house. So we lived in a house for 6 months, approximately, and it didn't have a washing machine. No, it didn't have it was an older place. We were just there temporarily, and we had to do laundry by hand. Had a wringer, so had that's what it was like. So washing by hand, and you had these things. It was this massive laundry sink, and you had these things. You pushed it down and made like the moving around of the washing machine. So so that was in your house when you had running water, and you could have hot water and different things and detergent. I can imagine when you had to go down to the river and you had to use all these various, they didn't have the same detergents we had today, yet they had to use these various things. Washing by hand is a tremendous amount of work, and it's not fitting for Chol Hamoed. Today, of course, again, I'm not saying that doing laundry today is zero effort or it's nothing, but relatively speaking to what it was in the past, it's not a difficult task to do. You put some things in the washing machine, you put in some detergent, and, especially if you have a dryer and you don't need to hang it up, especially in public and different things. So today, if people are, as I said, many authorities are lenient today. It doesn't have to be, it's for sure going to get totally ruined, it could be, or it's messing up the house. You got all these piles of laundry, or the kids, on the Chol Hamoed trips got a little excited, and then they're going through too many sets of clothes, and getting dirty. So if there's some type of need, it doesn't have to be an extreme need, but there's some type of need. Many authorities are lenient today, particularly if you have a dryer, so you don't have to hang it up outside in public. And so the whole thing is done privately. So if there's a need, I'm sure sometimes in Florida, if it's sukkahs, in the sukkah and it's very humid, and you might go through a few undershirts, whatever it is, you're running out. So if one needs, they can be a little bit more lenient today. Okay. Any questions on that? No? All right. So 14, Yud Daled. Kol davar shel tzarich l'refuah. Anything that's needed for health, to restore health. So I'm not talking about making multivitamins to preserve health. Now we're talking about to restore health. Anything that's needed to restore health, mutar lasos, you're allowed to do Chol Hamoed. So even though there's certain restrictions on Shabbos, there might be certain restrictions. Chol Hamoed, anything. You can buy what you need for the health. The doctor can set bones. You can do surgeries. Okay, obviously life-threatening situations, you can do surgeries anyway, even on Shabbos. But it's not life-threatening. It's going to restore quality of life or help. And in other words, you don't have to wait till after Yom Tov. Might even be, the insurance companies or hospitals' definition of elective surgery isn't always what we call elective surgery, right? The person suffering in pain for 12 years, but is on a waiting list because it's elective surgery. He's not going to die without it, It's a little pain, no gain, that's what they all say when it's not them in pain. But it's, so when I say elective surgery, I don't mean, someone's going to, the 73rd facelift for the month, but look, it's not something that the arm isn't going to fall off, but it's going to help them if they get the surgery done. So anything like that, anything that a person needs, and again, obviously, as I said, I'm going to emphasize again, we're not talking about life-threatening situation that overrules even Shabbos, but things that there's no threat to life. But a person needs, it's going to enhance, it's going to improve their health. So a person can do that. Not only can you do that, bein adam bein lebehema, not only can you do it for people, but even for animals. So you have a pet, needs some type of something done. that involves a malacha to restore health, we can do it for animals as well. Okay. Tesvov, number 15. Cheshboinus. So cheshboinus literally means, like our financial calculations. But we're talking about, you need to record a bill. Someone's come and taken something on credit, and if you don't write it down, you're going to forget who owes you money. So you need to, or something like that, some type of financial record. And the like, that if you don't write it, it's going to get forgotten. So if it's no problem, it's for sure going to be remembered. Well, then we can't write it down, because writing is also malacha. But if it's something that's going to be forgotten, it's going to be forgotten if we don't write it down, or potentially forgotten. Then
Rabbi, Rabbi, is that also included in texting the information? Same thing?
Okay, so texting is a whole
For
interesting
the financial, I'm
discussion
saying for the financial.
Yeah, so texting, even not financial. See, the thing is, texting, you're not actually making any permanent anything. You're not actually writing. The definition of writing means you put something down on an object. It doesn't have to be paper, but because the malach of writing includes painting. Even like stone painting. Whatever it is. In other words, you make a picture or a symbol. You're putting something, and it stays. I'm not going to say forever, because everything wears out eventually. But like when you write on a piece of paper, it's still there. So just as a side point to this, in the Israeli army, they have people on guard duty, and they every hour they have to make certain recordings of things. So obviously, it's a life-threatening situation, because if they don't have the right information, God forbid, there could be ramifications. But even in a life-threatening situation, if you're able to, you want to do the least malacha. You want to minimize what you do. So what they've done, there's an organization called Somet. Somet deals with these issues, trying to help the state of Israel run more halachic. And they developed these pens. Essentially, it's a visible ink. You're right. Then after like 6 hours, it wears away. It disappears. So or however long. So they make their records, and it gets transcribed after Shabbos. So maybe it's not 6 hours, but whatever it is, they get transcribed after Shabbos. And so it's not a permanent. When the person writes on Shabbos, they didn't write something permanent. So it's only a partial malacha. It's not a full malacha. And that's better than a full malacha. So they have to do something, because God forbid. Similarly, if you're in Israel and you go to the Kaisel, the Western Wall, on Shabbos, you'll go through a metal detector. So the metal detector that they have there, instead of running directly, when you go through, instead of setting something off directly, if someone has something not meant to have, it makes something happen. That makes something happen that sets it off. So instead of you directly doing a malacha, you do it indirectly. So these types of things. Anyway, looks like we've run out of time for today. It's to be continued. Any questions before we finish up?
Thank you, Rabbi. Stay
Thank
safe.
you, Rabbi.
Yeah, don't forget to daven today for a good Esrog.
Thank you, Rabbi.
That's today. And have an
Nice
amazing week.
Esrog.
You too, Rabbi.
That's it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.